Tell me, what are you looking for on Sunday? Are there any players or position matchups that you're excited to watch?
Not particularly, but the game, I think there's a certain game plan that they need to follow. As we know, Utah has a great defensive front, so I think that I think Kevin Sumlin needs to establish the run early, as we've said, and just keep the pace of the game. And keep looking at the clock and not just throwing it a ton right away. And I also want to see Grant Cannell take control of this offense and really show and establish that he's the leader of this team.
I agree. I think if there's any way that Arizona wins this game, it's going to be because they just dominate time of possession, right? Like, if Arizona's defense is on the field more than it should be, they're going to lose 100%. Like this defense is just not good enough to be on the field as much as it needs to be. Like, the offense needs to carry the workload of the time of possession and just basically control the game, instead of, bombing it on 2nd and 8, why not just run the ball? And now you set up 3rd and short. Maybe you can throw something to Bryce Wilmer or something. So, slowly move chains and not so much just all or nothing plays. And, I really want to see Arizona take control of this game. But I'm also looking at a couple other things. I mean, the matchups in particular, I want to, I'm going to be really excited to see Arizona's defensive line going up against Utah's offensive line. Like, I'm not too familiar with, Utah's offensive line this year, but I feel like they always have a pretty solid, pretty good offensive line, right? Like, they're never bad, I think. So I think this is a really good test for Arizona and its defensive line. I mean, we've talked about it before, but Arizona's line could be pretty good this year. Like, a lot of big 300-pound dudes on that line. And not only that, but their experience as well. Like we already talked about, Aaron Blackwell and Roy Lopez are both graduate transfers. They're going to be starting on that line. Trayvon Mason and Jalen Cochran, they're both seniors. They're going to be the backups, so they're going to be rotating through as well. So just more experienced players being thrown into the mix at that D-line. Keon Bars, Nahi Salunga, Mikey Irving, they've all been here before. None of those guys are freshmen, so they're all in their 2nd or 3rd season with the team. So I think the trenches will certainly be something that I will be watching on Saturday. And I look forward to watching that matchup. I think Arizona's D-line is pretty good. We should see some good things coming out of them.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an area they can capitalize, because if Utah does start throwing the ball, I think they're going to gash Arizona's defense up and down the field, and it could be ugly. But I also want to look at Arizona's receiving core. They have a bunch of big receivers, a bunch of guys over 6 feet too, and they just need to establish that. I think they need to get Booby Curry heavily involved, and especially when they get in the red zone, I want to see some jump balls for them in the corner. And yeah, I think that's where they could capitalize.
Yeah, I think Arizona has a really good opportunity to jump on this secondary, because they're losing 3 starters from last year. Utah is. So, now you've got your returning wide receivers coming in, going up against a new group of cornerbacks. That could be a potential matchup that you can exploit early, right? Take a lot of shots down the field early, just kind of, spook them a little bit and just kind of see, oh shoot, they're throwing to us. Like, they're not messing around. So I don't know, maybe you can take a couple shots early. I know we want to establish the run game. So I don't know what kind of scheme they'll be running right out of the gate, but that'll definitely be something to watch for. Also want to kind of watch the tight ends a lot and see what that situation is like this week. I mean, obviously that was the talk of the offseason, right? Like, as it is every year, but I feel like this year in particular is a little more hope than normal seasons that maybe we actually will see the tight ends involved. Bryce Wilmer and Grant Cannell have joked with each other about, getting Wilmer more involved with the offense and taking the checkdowns and throwing it to Wilmer in the flats. And that's not really something that Arizona and Khalil Tate did a whole lot together last year. It was a lot of all or nothing plays, and the Wildcats offense was just so weird last year. And I really hope to see a little bit of a difference in that. So I'm kind of hoping that this offensive scheme can kind of shift a little bit away from the all or nothing plays and utilizing the flats and taking the yards that are given to them. And I also want to see how Stacey Marshall is used as well, specifically in the passing game. I really hope that, Noel Mazzoni draws up some passing plays for him and really takes advantage of that physical mismatch. Like, I mean, the dude is 6'5", 238 pounds. Like, it would be criminal to not use him as, a passer and just use him as an extra blocker. Like run some plays in the end zone for him, like throw him out there all by himself and out wide, and let him go to work on a smaller corner or a safety or whoever they decide to put on him in a red zone situation. Like, I don't know. I think we'll have a whole, like, I hope to see a whole lot of Stacey Marshall. I don't know if we'll really see him a lot in week one. He'll probably be worked into the offense, a little more slowly than that, but we should see a lot of Bryce Wilma on the field, and hopefully they'll be running some routes and not just lining up at right next to Peyton Fears at the right tackle position, and hopefully they'll use more than just an extra blocker in this offense.
Yeah. I think early on in that game on Saturday, they need to establish that's a big part of how I think this offense can grow. And a lot of great offense is the quarterback's best friend is the tight end. We've seen all across pro football, college football, the tight ends are heavily involved. And as we saw, like I was watching the Penn State game like a few weeks ago, and like their tight end, he's the top tight end in the country, and he had like 8 receptions. Like that's how maybe that's a little too much for us, but you need to use them a lot because they do have some good talent there.
Yeah, I mean, look what Florida does with Kyle Pitts. Like, he's like probably their best receiver, and he's their tight end. Like, George Kittle with the Niners, Mark Andrews with the Ravens, Travis Kelce with the Chiefs, when Gronk was there at the Patriots, like, it is such a useful piece of an offense, and it really just opens up everything because, you got all your corners lined up on your wide receivers, and the linebackers are basically just sitting in the middle of the field, either just lurking the pass over the middle, or they're watching the running back. They're not worried about the tight end at all. If you throw the tight end there as like a potential passing option, now you got to put a guy on the tight end. And we've talked about Stacey Marshall being 6'5". That's a mismatch. Their linebackers are going to be 6'2", around there, and nobody's going to be that big as Stacey Marshall. So if they lined up in man coverage and they go one-on-one with Bryce Wilma or Stacey Marshall, like, they can just catch the ball over him. Like I don't know. I think that the tight end has so much potential in an offense, and I hope that this season is the season where we actually really do see him, and that'll definitely be something I'll be watching this week as well.